So, hey everyone, thank you for coming. Over the last 2 weeks, actually, quite a bit has happened. It's been very busy. There's two, I guess, main things that have happened, which are both releases. So there's a 2.2.2 release that came out, and then the 2.2.3 release also came out. The first release is what I would call a large minor release. Technically, it's a minor release on the versioning, but there was quite a bit that went into there. It had been about 2 months since the previous release, and that previous release was more or less a bug fix release to fix a vulnerability in Electron. So really, it had been quite some time since a new release came out, and so there's quite a bit in there. The primary improvement from the 2.2.2 was in cryptocurrency listing feature. So originally you weren't able to change the price that you listed at. You just had to sell at market price. And the number of listings that were available was somewhere like around 60 or something like that. Now, with this release, you can add markups or discounts, which mean the price still floats around the market price, but you can add, say, 3%, and at time of sale, automatically 3% will be added to the market price, or discounts, same, just in negative. Also, the CoinMarketCap API has been integrated, and that means that now there's over, I don't know the exact number because it changes every release, but there's over 1,500 different cryptocurrencies that can be bought or sold on OpenBazaar now because of that. Those are the major things. There's a few other minor things that happen in that release as well. One is that there's a new feature called View on Web, and what this does is this adds links throughout the app where when you're looking at, say, a listing or a store, maybe even search results, I can't remember that one. Regardless, you're able to click a link that says View on Web, and it will then take you to the OpenBazaar.com website and show you what you're looking at in the app right on the web, which obviously is what we hope is very convenient for sharing further at that point. The IPNS PubSub feature was also added in 2.2.2. I don't fully understand this feature, I'll admit. If anyone has questions about it, perhaps Mike can jump in and explain. As I understand it, it's going to speed up IPNS calls, not the initial call, but all the subsequent calls, because it opens up sort of a channel, a publish, subscribe channel, and new updates will sort of be pushed instead of having to make a new call every time. So that hopefully will speed up IPNS calls being made, especially to the gateways, which are the most frequent ones that you'll be talking to. There's a few other changes, such as the opt-in metrics, and if you want a full list of changes and bug fixes, obviously check out the release notes. So the 2.2.2 release was well received. We saw more users coming in than we have in several months. We're still kind of looking at the stats to figure out exactly where that traffic came from and why and whatnot, but generally the takeaway seems to be that people really liked the idea of a no-fee place to trade over 1,500 different cryptocurrencies without identifying information. A lot of people just wanted to sort of check that out. So we've seen a decent number of folks come in and check out the cryptocurrency trading stuff. And the number of cryptocurrency specific listings has substantially increased. It was quite small before the release came out. I think something like 15 total listings, and now there's, I believe, just over 50. So people are testing it out. That's the 2.2.2. Anyone on the OB1 team, is there anything from that release that I have neglected to mention? I don't see anyone jumping in. So The next is the 2.2.3 release, and this is a bug fix release, primarily because the earlier release seemed to have broken something for Linux users that connected over Tor. So for that specific group of people, they were having connection issues, and it had to do something with the way authentication happened with Tor. Because if you're a Linux user, you're not forced to set up authentication to communicate with the Tor control port, whereas OS X and Windows users are. So for people that did not set that up, this broke something. Anyway, we figured that out, had a fix in. So if anyone listening had issues on Linux with Tor, obviously you need to update. Well, you should update anyway. There are a couple other small fixes in 2.2.3. One's around the way shipping charges were applied. There's like an additional shipping charge field after the first item that wasn't being applied correctly. Now it is. Also, coupons were not being displayed correctly. So that's 2.2.3. Again, anyone on the OB1 team, have I missed anything from that update?
Chris had a small question regarding the value of the value of the metrics that we've been collecting and how that's been.
Yeah, good question. I mean, that's hard to summarize the value of it. I love digging into the stats and getting a better understanding of how people have been using them. So just last night in our company Slack, we were sharing around some stats that we had found recently that I think were fairly positive in terms of the number of people doing purchases. So getting a better sense of how many people are using the app, how many purchases they're making, how long they're taking, how do they come back after using it once, that kind of thing, has been very helpful. Like quantifying that could be difficult. I think what will be helpful, and we've talked about doing this before, is also giving some sort of stats update. So maybe that's a part of the newsletter updates that Jen is going to be reintroducing, or maybe it's a part of some sort of regular blog update that we do. Basically, what have these stats looked like recently? I don't know the best way to communicate that to people that are interested, but certainly we went from having total complete estimates with very little, data to now having, it's not great because it's only people who opted in. And even then we try to make it as, anonymous as we can, but it's still a hell of a lot better than it was before. So I would say yes, it's giving OB1 good feedback. There are a few, I wouldn't say quirks, like Countly, the service that is being used, is primarily built for typical websites, not like a static web app. And so some of the features, things like flows through the app, don't work very well for what we're doing, which is unfortunate. So there are probably ways we can improve getting feedback out of Countly. And I know that the 2.2.2 did have some upgrades to how the metrics were sort of being gathered, different events. But other than that, I don't have, I guess, much more to add on the stat stuff. Josh, I know you've dealt a lot with that. Is anything to add up to that?
No, I think you've covered it pretty well. Okay. It's probably worth mentioning one of the big advantages with Countly is we can also use it for mobile apps and web apps and have all the statistics in one place and then run comparisons across them.
Yeah, that's a good point. So once we get to that point when the mobile app's out, we'll actually be able to figure out how people use those differently in real time, which is neat. So those are the major things that have happened in terms of the releases. Something else worth mentioning, Chris Pacia, our lead backend developer, attended an IPFS developer meeting in Berlin, and there's a lot of development happening on the IPFS and libp2p front. If you guys want more details on that, Chris wrote a summary on the OpenBazaar blog, so go ahead and check that out. And Chris, busy fella, is also now on the West Coast at the Decentralized Web Summit. And he's going to be speaking about OpenBazaar, I think today or tomorrow. I've been kind of watching, they have live streams of their panels. There's some pretty good speakers there, some pretty interesting projects there. So check that out as well. So that's where we have been. Where we're going is something familiar to folks who've been on these calls. The 2.3 release work continues. For those not familiar, 2.3 release is a major upgrade, major release, and it focuses on multi-wallet. So instead of the current approach of having a single currency you're forced to use, people will now be able to use multiple currencies in the same node. The only other thing I think that's worth noting, actually, from the earlier releases that I forgot to mention is there's been an increase in the number of listings that don't seem to resolve from search, and this is something we've been looking into, and we suspect possibly there's something with like the gateway caching after PubSub was added that's not working properly. But I don't think we actually have an answer at this point why that is. So if folks, if you guys are testing out the network and you're starting to see a lot of listings that don't resolve, and you have like theories as to why that is, or you have a little bit of time to poke around, we'd love to hear that feedback. Whenever there's connectivity issues, it's we always want to see. At least I worry that maybe there's a new bug in there somewhere that we're not aware of. So, please let us know. I see Matt asked who was in Berlin. Chris Pacia, who's our lead backend developer, was in Berlin for the IPFS developers meeting. He is no longer currently there. All right, so 2.3 work continues. I don't really have a specific update as to over the next few weeks what exactly is being tackled. So Josh or Mike, anyone from Obi-Wan on the call, if you'd like to touch on that, that'd be great.
Sure. And the next few weeks is focused on 2.3. So we have a number of changes to make to support multi-wallet. And that will be the bulk of the work for the 2.3 release. Really, that's kind of it. It is, simple, but there's a lot going on there to make it so that you can easily create listings that support various currencies and accept orders in more than one currency within a single installation.
So it may be worth mentioning that we expect some API incompatibilities with this release. We will definitely see API changes over and above the ones that we've already released in 2.2.3. But we're also going to be seeing wallet interface changes. So right now we don't have any external wallets which match that interface, but this is going to be interesting for future wallet developers. We're trying to ensure that the interface is generic enough to support the majority of the wallets that we could potentially be seeing used for commerce on the OpenBazaar network. So if there's any input or thoughts that you have, or concerns with how your coin or favorite project might not be able to fit on the current wallet interface, that would be helpful to know right now while we're looking at that.
And that brings up another good point, which is that Mike wrote a blog post as well, talking about what the approach is likely to be for wallet, the OpenBazaar wallet. And there will be a future post that goes more in depth about the sort of plug-in architecture that we hope to be putting in OpenBazaar as well. So Jen has made a concerted effort to get more content from our development team onto the blog. So hopefully that's useful and appreciated by folks. So please check out the blog and see what our developers are writing about, and let us know if that's helpful to you. So there's some other comments. Someone asks, is anyone working on porting Monero to work with OpenBazaar? Because it's not Bitcoin derived, it can be difficult. That is true, unfortunately, that it's not super easy to combine them. There have been a few people from the Monero community who said that they plan to start working on OpenBazaar integration here and there. As far as I know, no one is actively working on it. No one on our team is actively working on it. I know there are several team members who are personally really interested in Monero and Monero users, but as far as I know, there's been no actual development toward getting Monero into OpenBazaar yet. I certainly hope that'll happen, but go ahead.
There's a part of the reason for that is we are working on a plugin architecture for wallets, and we're not really doing any work on integrating new wallets until that's done, because we don't want to have to redo it. And once the plugin architecture is in place, theoretically anyone can create a wallet, and users would be able to download wallets that they want to add to OpenBazaar for any currency that has a wallet, a wallet that adheres to our plugin standards.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, we couldn't even look at Monero because it didn't have multisig, and so it just wouldn't work. Literally, wouldn't work in OpenBazaar for what we're doing. And then it got multisig, but by that point, we were already in the process of this redesign where we're changing how the wallet works all together. So putting any resources into integrating something before that happens probably will be wasted. So I hate to kick the can down the road, but for now, Monero's not gonna happen. But we certainly hope that after the architecture change, someone will take that on.
And Daniel, the same answer applies to Zcash.
Yeah.
The current Zcash wallet does require you to run a node, which is very cumbersome. There was a PR someone put in for a light version of that, where you wouldn't have to run a full node, but we have not merged the PR because we'd rather wait for the plugin architecture, and that way people can decide how they want to run Zcash on their own. They may say, I want to run the full node Zcash wallet, or I want to run the light wallet.
Does a Zcash Lite wallet exist at this point, though?
Well, that's what the PR is for, I believe.
Oh, okay, cool.
Or at least it's a lighter wallet that uses a web API instead of running a full node on your machine.
Great.
And I don't know, I think when we release 2.3, the multi-wallet may work that way and have built-in cloud support for Zcash, so you don't have to run a node.
Yeah, there's a list of coins that should work already once the multi-wallet architecture goes. And I can't remember what they are now, but I think it's like Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Zcash.
Zcash, yeah. I believe those four will all work out of the box with a multi-coin wallet, and they will all be cloud-based. So I guess I should retract what I said and rephrase it. Once 2.3 comes out, your Zcash will automatically run from the cloud and not your local node, and you would have to put effort into switching it back to using your local full node.
Yeah. So Chris comments that he's excited about the prospect of working with tokens, either ERC20 or something else something on the BCH network. Something that we haven't really talked about this session is the work on Ethereum integration. So while all of this other work that we talked about is happening, we're also working on getting Ethereum integrated into the app first for payments. That's, I think, my understanding is that's actually mostly done, or soon to be completed. And that also required some smart contract stuff around refunds and stuff for mediation. But that there are plans to build in other smart contract capabilities based on Ethereum. And some of those are going to allow token uses. I mean, naturally, the OpenBazaar token is a big part of why that's being done. But I believe the hope is that things like ERC20 and Ethereum-based tokens would also somehow be able to be used within the application. Though, to be honest, at this point, I don't think we really have details on that. But that is being built. There are people right now working on that. If you guys have more questions or thoughts specifically on Ethereum integration or token integration, Washington is the guy to talk to about that. He's been managing that effort. On the coins on the BCH network, I don't think we've looked into that at all. I know that's even something that's debated within the BCH community because that functionality is not usable yet, or that's my understanding anyway. But, I think the goal is to keep this open enough and have this plugin architecture open enough that hopefully that kind of stuff will be able to be done as well. Yeah, right. And as Chris points out, Chris Pacia is up to date on that community and what they're doing. So certainly, contact him if you want more details on that. He's knowledgeable. Daniel, payments for tokens. I don't know yet exactly what. I don't know if all tokens are going to be the same. I don't know if it'll mean you're able to use any given Ethereum token for payments or for anything else. I just honestly don't know the details yet. Clearly, the OpenBazaar token will be able to unlock some specific functionality within the app, such as purchasing advertising space within channels. That's a specific thing. That's the primary use of what the OpenBazaar token is going to be doing. But as to whether other tokens will be able to be used for payments or any other specific functionality, I don't know yet. All right, well, that's all that I can think of to discuss from the OB1 side. So anyone from our team, if I missed anything, speak up. And if anyone has any other questions, throw them in chat or speak up. And yeah.
I'm curious if anyone is working on interesting projects to maybe use 10 seconds or so to quickly talk about what you're doing.
I'll just echo this is Chris Troutner. I'll just echo what I said earlier in that I really find it fascinating some of the things that is being done. There is a store on the OpenBazaar network called The Pub, and it's sort of this hacked instant messaging client. So if people are interested, I encourage you to, I don't have a link to share at the moment, but I think if you search around or ask on the Slack channel, someone can send you a link. There's also Maza Tribe, who is publishing content. They're using the listings sort of as a blog post. And so it's pretty interesting, these sort of hackery ways that they're using it. So I encourage people to sort of check them out.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, those are worth checking out. They're pretty neat, and it always gives a little more credence to a couple of features that we have sort of already introduced, but haven't formally introduced. One of them is posts. That functionality technically exists, but it was we didn't know whether or not there was demand for it, and we had to put a lot of development effort into it. But down the road, this is a future thing. We would like the ability for people to be able to make posts and, have sort of a more social type of community doing that sort of thing. So at least someone is demonstrating demand for that. So we have a question in chat. Crash. Have there been any changes to your roadmap that were published 3 months ago? I'm trying to think now. I mean, I put that roadmap out. I'm trying to think through anything that might have changed over the past 3 months. Certainly the broad contours are all the same. The focus is going to be on getting it on more platforms, basically web and mobile. We already have published the OpenBazaar.com browse only. That was the phase 1 of web. So that's already completed. Phase 2 of that is the buyer only web interface, being able to purchase things through the web without downloading. That is currently underway. And the mobile side had already been going and still is, a strong focus of what we're doing. Otherwise, a few specific features that we called out, I believe those features are all there. One was cryptocurrency listings, and that's what we've just been talking about. That's out, and now having been approved in the last release. And I can't remember all the other features in there, but I believe, basically, yes, the roadmap is the same as what was published. The foundation was another part of that, and that's still underway as well. The research into how best to form an organization is something that I'm dealing with, and it's continuing apace. So Daniel asks what we see when we go to OpenBazaar.com, and that worries me, that question. But it appears to be working on my end. Basically, what you're doing is you're pulling data from our gateway nodes. Okay, it's working on Daniel's end now. I mean, it's, as I said, browse only. It's just hitting gateway nodes, the OB1 gateway nodes to pull from. So it's not a fully distributed like web interface, but it is a good way to get content onto the web for people. And of course, we encourage anyone else to build web front ends into OpenBazaar Network too, right? It doesn't have to just be OB1's OpenBazaar.com. There are a few people that kind of do that with search engine websites, but we welcome as much of that as possible. All right, any other comments or questions? So a couple more questions. One, where do we think community members who want to contribute to documentation could best help?
May I, Sam?
Yes, please.
So right now, documentation for developers is something that we've been talking about on and off for some months. And we have some tests that we're running internally that are exploring site builds and various documentation processes. We're leaning towards something that looks like an inline documentation that fits with our GoDoc adoption that we're looking to take on. There's basically a lot of patterns that we would like to see improved on the server side, and we'd like to make a lot of those choices kind of at the same time, so that when we ask the community to adopt these new standards, it's not, piecemeal. It's kind of, we know everything that we kind of want now. We just haven't quite gotten the prescription completed. So when there is a prescription for the community to follow, we'll be very loud and we'll be very clear about it. But if you'd like to participate in the meantime, there's a documentation channel in Slack that I welcome you to. and your help would be welcome in the OpenBazaar Go repo as well. As far as actionables, I would say let's coordinate in that channel. You can find me. My handle is MG, and I will see what we can do. But in the meantime, let's wait for us to come up with a prescription that we can formalize and share with the community.
Sort of aligned with us in terms of where our value proposition is, which is more privacy, no fees, decentralization. That pushing beyond that and trying to solve problems people have, while still needing to overcome the significant barriers to use OpenBazaar for people that aren't familiar with the cryptocurrency community, is it's premature, I suppose. I mean, there have been some efforts to kind of get people who are, say, dissatisfied with eBay or Shopify or whatnot. But the barriers of needing to do all your trade in cryptocurrency, needing to download a specific application, have been an impediment to getting those people on board. So we've primarily focused on people that are already in crypto. But if there are specific communities that you guys know are, that OpenBazaar would solve problems for, hey, this is not just us trying to promote this platform. We would love for you guys to take it on and see if it works for them and let us know. Maybe there's a way we can help facilitate that too. So feel free to let us know. But we'd love other people to try that out. We have another question. What would be your pitch to use OB1 for crypto versus, say, BISC? So I know when you say OB1, you mean OpenBazaar, because OB1 company doesn't do anything with crypto trading at all. But first of all, I personally really like BISC. They're probably the project out there that's the closest in values and sort of like ideals to OpenBazaar. Totally decentralized, distributed. But there are a few differences. So BISC primarily focuses on the fiat to crypto and crypto to fiat side of the exchange. So a lot of their focus is on integrating and figuring out how to get bank transfers and clarify that bank payments were made and that kind of thing. And their moderation system is primarily focused on that type of thing, whereas OpenBazaar is solely, at the moment, is solely crypto to crypto, right? So you're not worrying about the fiat side of it. BISC does have fees, although those fees are very small. So this is not 2-5% or anything. It's crazy. They're small fees, but they do have fees. And I mean, I think BISC has been around for a long time, and they have a good product. But obviously, I'm biased. I think OpenBazaar has a better user interface, and it also is. I'm not that familiar with BISC statistics. Overall, has more users. They likely have a lot more users focused on crypto trading because that's their whole thing, and they've been doing it for a while. But OpenBazaar has more users total. And if we have what we hope to see is a community where, like, OpenBazaar is the place they go for anything dealing with sort of cryptocurrency, whether that's trade of physical goods, trade of digital goods, or trade of cryptocurrencies. It's your one-stop shop to come in and engage in the crypto economy. So if that's what becomes true, then OpenBazaar will capture a lot more of that in the future moving forward. But having said all that, like I said, I like BISC. Go ahead and use it for fiat to crypto for sure. And if anyone has feedback on how to further improve the crypto trading stuff on OpenBazaar, let us know. I'll just point out one more thing, which is the fiat to crypto side is something we're just starting to look into. We had a conversation the other day about how it could be done, and it's it's complicated. It's not simple to do by any means. The moderation and arbitration is where a lot of the difficulty is. And there's no commitment to do that type of thing at this point. But we are considering it, how that might be done. All right, any other questions or comments? Yeah, you're welcome. All right, well, I don't see anything further, so it's 1:45. Thank you everyone for attending. As always, if you have further questions or comments or things you're working on, please contact us via Slack, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks.